Nikki Haley has lost no time making a name for herself as America's UN ambassador, which is already leading to speculation about what else her future may hold. Rita Braver has our Sunday profile.
If this administration has a star...
Welcome to the UN.
Thank you so much. Your workplace.
That's right. This is where I live.
It just might be Nikki Haley.
Good morning.
From her first day on the job as United Nations ambassador,
You are going to see a change in the way we do business.
46-year-old Haley laid down the law.
For those that don't have our back, we're taking names.
So this is where the real action happens,
Yes.
huh? And as she took us on a rare visit to the floor of the United Nations Security Council,
This is the United States spot. But
she defended her tough stance. Some people say there's a little too much swagger. You know that.
I don't think it's swagger. I think it's passion. I am very passionate about defending the United States. There are times when we are compelled to do more than just talk.
After a gas attack in Syria, she held up pictures of young victims, blaming Russian-backed forces.
How many more children have to die before Russia cares?
And late last year, she pushed through tough international sanctions against North Korea
He is begging for war.
after they tested an intercontinental ballistic missile. Sanctions that may have helped lead to recent promises to roll back North Korea's nuclear program and to an upcoming summit. A few months ago, it almost seemed like this administration was prepared for war with North Korea. Were you prepared for that?
I think this administration was creating the tone with North Korea to remind them exactly what could happen to them if they threaten the United States. No one wants war. The president doesn't want war. I don't want war. No one wants war. But it's an option.
When you spend time with Haley, you notice how often she brings President Trump into the conversation. She is unfailingly loyal to him, constantly stressing his accomplishments. What do you say to people who say, okay, maybe he's done some things right, but his behavior is sometimes reprehensible? Do you ever think that?
First of all, he has his communication style, but you're not hearing me defend that. What I will tell you is if there's anything that he communicates in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, I pick up the phone and call him. I don't need to be public about that. I think that's a private conversation that should happen when I feel it, and I think it's one that he's receptive when I do.
One area where Haley is in lockstep with President Trump is on his charges that special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation has gone on too long. Should the president shut it down?
No, not at all. I mean, anything that comes like this, it should play its part. It should go through the process, but they need to do it quickly. For the good of the country, this investigation needs to happen quickly.
Haley does sometimes put a softer focus on the president's pronouncements.
These countries are not our friends. We think they're our friends, and we send them
Earlier
massive
this
aid.
year, he threatened to cut off
I won't
aid
mention names
to
right
Central
now,
American countries
but I
that
look at
don't
these
do
countries,
more
and
to
they're
stop
pouring
drug
drugs into our
trafficking.
country, and they're laughing at us. So I'm not a believer in that. I want to stop the aid.
Welcome to Honduras. Thank you so much for coming.
A few weeks later, we traveled to Honduras with her.
So good to see you.
As she conferred with senior officials, witnessed a drug enforcement exercise, but also made time to visit a U.S.-funded after-school program.
If they get education and they get training, then we know that they're going to be productive. If they don't, we'll be dealing with resentful children that are uneducated and angry, and that's what we don't want.
You sound like a liberal.
I'm not a liberal, I assure you. I'm a conservative who understands prevention saves us a lot more money in the long run.
In fact, Haley is a Tea Party conservative, against Obamacare, anti-abortion, and tough on illegal immigration, as the daughter of Sikh immigrants from India who came to the U.S. legally and settled in the small town of Bamberg, South Carolina. You've said we were always other. What was that like growing up, and what kinds of lessons did it teach you?
I think you grow up in a small town And, you know, your father wears a turban, your mother wears a sari. We look different. Everybody treated us different. But it was in that small town that I'm very grateful, because my parents reminded us that it's not about how you're different, it's about you're similar.
After Clemson University, Nikki Randhawa, as she was known, married Michael Haley, now a National Guard officer. They have 2 children. She was an accountant working in her family's gift and clothing business when in 2004 she decided to run for the state legislature. You took on the longest-serving member of the state legislature, a man who, as I recall, referred to you as Little Lady, and you won.
You know, ignorance is bliss. All I knew was there were too many lawyers at the State House and they needed an accountant, and I needed to figure out how to get there.
In 2010, she beat the odds again by winning the governor's race. But it was a dirty campaign with both racism and sexual innuendo that would surface again this year. In that campaign, you had 2 people falsely say that they'd had extramarital affairs with you. Just recently, we had somebody who was very much slapped down, tried to insinuate that there was something with you and the president. Is that just the price you pay for being a young, attractive woman in politics?
What I've noticed is if a woman does well, if a woman's good at her job, for some reason, people have trouble giving her that credit for just being good at her job. What I will tell you is I will stand up every time it happens and let people know it's not okay.
This will be South Carolina's decision.
As South Carolina governor, Haley gained national prominence after she pushed through a bill to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol grounds in the wake of a racially motivated shooting that killed 9 people in a black church.
That flag, while an integral part of our past, does not represent the future of our great state.
She was handily reelected, but left to join the Trump administration, where she's shown it's a mistake to mess with Nikki Haley.
We're joined now by the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations.
Last month on Face the Nation, in response to the latest gas attack in Syria, believed carried out by Russian-backed forces, she announced,
You will see that Russian sanctions will be coming down. Secretary Mnuchin will be announcing those on Monday if he hasn't already.
but at the last minute, the White House decided to hold off. The president's new economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, then came out and said that you'd had some momentary confusion, and you fired right back in a statement saying, what did you say?
With all due respect, I don't get confused.
That was a pretty strong statement. Why'd you feel like you wanted to say that?
That's just how I function. If there's something wrong, you go and you make it right. But I think what's more important is the fact that Larry's a friend of mine. He immediately called. He immediately apologized.
That combination of silk and steel has cut through to the public. A new Quinnipiac University poll finds her approval rating much higher than that of the president. She even scores 55% among Democrats, which has led to inescapable speculation. I seem to read a story once a day, either saying she's going to run for president or she should run for president. Are you going to run for president?
I don't think about it. No one wants to believe this, but people spend more time
people
talking
don't
about
believe
my
it.
future. My job is to be the best UN ambassador I can possibly be and make sure that people are proud of it. I don't think about the future, and honestly, I don't have time. Between North Korea, Russia, and Syria, the last thing I'm thinking about is what I'm going to do in the future.